Hello Geneva, and welcome to Geneva Works. I'm your host, Kevin Starr. During the past 20 years, Geneva, like most communities in suburban Kane County, has seen an influx in the coyote population. The city has taken a proactive approach to community education by providing a number of resources on our website, adopting a coyote management plan, and recently holding a community awareness workshop held on March 30th. Today, we are joined by Lynsey White Dasher of the Humane Society of the United States to share her expertise on how to live with these wild animals. Lynsey, thanks for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
For our viewers at home, can you tell us a little bit about your background at the Humane Society of the United States?
Sure. So I work for the Humane Society of the United States, which is a national organization. Our mission is to protect all animals. We're based in the Washington, D.C. area, but I work for our wildlife department and I travel all across the country helping communities solve conflicts with wildlife humanely and effectively. And I've been doing this for about 5 years now. I do trainings for animal control and police and educational seminars for residents, and I've done that for representatives from about 300 communities in the country.
A lot of residents have asked us, why have coyotes become more prevalent in our area during the past 2 decades?
Sure, there's a lot of reasons for that. Coyotes actually do very well in urban and suburban areas for a number of reasons. One is that they really don't have any competition in the area. So wolves used to be prevalent in this area, but now that they have been extirpated from this area, coyotes have become the main predator in the area. We don't really have bears or wolves or mountain lions in the Chicago area, so they're literally the top dog here. But also there's a lot of food and habitat for them. So coyotes primarily eat rodents like mice and rats, and we have plenty of those in urban and suburban areas, probably too many according to a lot of people, so they actually help control the rodent population. They also help control the population of Canada geese, another animal that some think we have too many of in certain areas. They're a primary predator of their eggs. But also they eat a lot of other small mammals, so they really can find plenty to eat here in urban and suburban areas. Actually more to eat here than they do in rural areas. Also, they can live in just about any type of habitat type. They don't need to live in a forest preserve. They actually can do well living in our urban and suburban areas.
Are there certain times of year or certain times of the day that coyotes are more visible to the residents and visitors to Geneva?
There is. So coyotes in urban and suburban areas normally become more nocturnal, so we normally don't see them during the daytime. But during the spring and summer when they're raising their pups, they have to be out hunting double time to feed their pups. So we do sometimes see them more often during the day in the spring and summer. And this is normal coyote behavior. Seeing a coyote out during the day doesn't mean that the coyote is rabid or that it's aggressive. It just means that it's out hunting for their pups. They should exhibit a wariness of people though and should run away when they see you. And if they don't, then that's when we need to haze them, which we'll get to a bit later, I believe.
And you touched on this a little bit, but what are the primary food sources for coyotes?
Yeah, so coyotes are actually opportunistic omnivores. They're not true carnivores. So that essentially means they eat just about everything. They eat plants, they eat animals, they even are scavengers. So they will sometimes take advantage of road-killed animals like deer or other mammals that are killed on the side of the road. But again, they're primarily hunting small rodents like mice and rats. They also will eat a lot of fruit. So studies in this area have shown that up to a quarter of their diet is made up of fruit. So if people have fruit trees in their yard and the fruit is fallen on the ground, that's actually a big attractant for coyotes. So there are plenty of natural sources of food like rodents and fruit and even insects that coyotes will eat here. However, they do sometimes take advantage of sources of food that we make available for them. So if people leave pet food outside or unsecured garbage, they will sometimes take advantage of that too.
One of the concerns that people sometimes have about coyotes is the chances of being attacked by one of these wild animals. What are the actual statistics that say that a coyote would attack a human being?
Actually, we have found that the actual number of attacks on people by coyotes is very, very small. We found an average of less than 10 incidents throughout the United States and Canada per year. Compared to the number of dog bites, which is almost 5 million a year, that's a very small number. Most of these are very minor injuries that involve single bites to the extremities. We've actually found that just as many adults have been bitten as children, so the common misconception that coyotes are coming after kids just simply isn't true. So you're much more likely to be killed by a strike of lightning or killed by a champagne cork or a golf ball, actually, than you are to be bitten by a coyote.
Now, there have been several reports in Geneva over the last several years of coyotes attacking small pets, mainly dogs. What are steps that residents can take to protect their animals when they are outside?
Right, so the most important thing is to make sure that you are always walking your dog on a leash and that you're outside with them, especially if it's a small animal. So coyotes will normally leave pets alone, but they do view unattended small pets as potential prey items. And the reason for that is because a small cat or a small unattended dog doesn't look much different to a coyote than a rabbit or a woodchuck. It's a different story if you're next to your dog and they're on a leash, but if they're just roaming around freely, that looks like a potential prey item to a coyote. So we recommend that you walk your dog on a leash that's 6 feet long or less, and also that when they're outside, that you are outside with them. A lot of people don't realize that coyotes can jump over a 6-foot tall fence. And if your fence is less than 6 feet tall, a coyote can jump right over. And so you want to make sure that your yard is as coyote proof as it can be, or that you're outside with your dog. So if your fence is at least 6 feet tall, there are things you can do to the top of your fence to prevent the coyote from jumping over. You can install something called a Coyote Roller, which is a loosely rolling bar. That when the coyote tries to jump over the fence, what they have to do is jump up onto the fence and push off if it's at least 6 feet tall. And the Coyote Roller prevents them from doing that. So if you don't have a fence that is at least 6 feet tall with something on top, you do want to make sure you're outside with your dog when they're out there. Also, we want to make sure that people with cats are keeping them inside. The best way to protect your cat, the only way to protect your cat, is to keep them inside all of the time. The reason for that is because cats are at risk not just from coyotes when they're outside, but from other wildlife, from cars, from diseases. They also can harm other wildlife. So we recommend that people keep their cats inside all the time. But if you want to let your cat enjoy the outdoors, there are some ways you can do that. You can put them on a leash and a harness, and they're probably not going to walk around the block with you, but you can just put them in the yard and they can roll around in the grass and have fun, and you know that they're safe. Or you could build a secure cat enclosure like a catio and allow them to enjoy the access to the outdoors. If you simply must let your cat outside, or if you care for a feral cat colony, we also recommend that you definitely don't leave food outside. So if it's a pet cat, we recommend you feed the cat inside. If you care for a feral cat colony, we recommend that you only put out food once per day and then immediately remove the food as soon as the cats have eaten. That way you're not leaving out cat food, which is an attractant for the coyote, which will then endanger the cats.
And we've started talking about this subject a little bit, but what are some additional steps that residents can make their backyard or neighborhood maybe uninviting to coyotes?
Sure, well, you just want to look around your yard and, like you mentioned, your neighborhood and see what could be attracting a coyote in. So pet food is always the biggest one. You might not have pet food outside, but maybe your neighbor does or someone down the street does. Look around and make sure you've picked up any fallen fruit. Also, if you feed birds, when the bird seed falls on the ground and starts collecting, that can attract rodents, which can attract in coyotes. So just sort of clean up the spilled bird seed underneath. Of course, you want to make sure your trash is secured. Trash attracts all sorts of wild animals, so you want to make sure that is contained. And again, just look around your neighborhood, nicely talk to your neighbors. They might not have any idea that they are attracting coyotes into the neighborhood. They might be leaving food out for squirrels or raccoons, but of course the coyotes don't care who the food was left out for. They're going to come eat it anyway. So, look around your yard, talk to your neighbors, and do whatever you can to reduce those food attractants.
When people are outside and they happen to come across a coyote, what are the appropriate steps to take when they see these wild animals?
Sure. Well, the first thing is don't panic. Coyotes are usually much more afraid of us than we are of them. They should normally run away if they see you. If they don't run away when they see you, that's when we need to use a method that we call hazing. So essentially you just want to be big and loud, you want to make noise, you want to direct it at the coyote to scare the coyote away. So you can raise your arms over your head and yell at the coyote, you can use a blowhorn, you can blow a whistle. You can, if you're in your yard and you see a coyote, you can use a squirt gun on the coyote or douse your water hose at them. You can bang pots and pans. You can open up an umbrella. You just want to do something to scare the coyote away. And you want to continue that action until the coyote actually runs away. And this is sending a message to the coyote that they are not welcome in your yard or your neighborhood and that they should be afraid of you.
Now in Geneva, some residents have said that coyotes have become more comfortable with humans. If that's the case, then what steps do you take in that situation?
Sure, so again, that is where we would definitely want to haze coyotes. I often hear from people that say that they've tried hazing and it didn't work. And usually that's because they started hazing a coyote, the coyote just stood there and looked at them, and then they just stopped. So it's actually a very common response from a coyote that's very habituated to just stand there and look at a person when they're hazed. And that's because they've never been hazed before and they don't understand what you're doing. So you need to continue, yelling at, throwing things towards the coyote until they run away. If you start hazing a coyote and just stop and think that it didn't work, then all you're teaching that coyote is that he just has to wait a few moments and you'll leave and he can go right back to whatever he was doing. So you need to continue doing the hazing until they leave. We also need everybody involved in this. If we only have 1 or 2 people in the city of Geneva hazing coyotes and everybody else is just walking away from them or ignoring them, then that's not going to be as effective as if everybody is involved. That's why we need everybody involved in hazing. We can't just have the police officers, for example, hazing coyotes, because then the coyotes would learn very quickly to be afraid of police officers. They would recognize their uniform and their cars, and they would run away before the police could even get out of the car. So we need coyotes to be afraid of you and me and everyday people that are in the neighborhood walking their dogs.
What are some other tips that you can share with our residents about coyote safety? I know one would be not to feed coyotes.
Definitely, never want to feed a coyote. That is the easiest way to lead to conflicts with coyotes and even potentially aggression towards people. The rare incidents that we have found where coyotes have bitten people, in many of those cases, it's because people were feeding them. So we never want to feed a coyote. We never want to leave food out where the coyote could come eat it. But also, it's good to know a little bit about coyote ecology and behavior and what they're up to each time of year. So this time of year, which is from January through the end of March, is breeding season. And coyotes, a fun fact about coyotes is that they're very monogamous. They stay together for life. And we think this is because it's so important that both the male and the female help aid in raising their pups. So because they're so monogamous, the males are also very territorial of their females. So sometimes during the mating season, we see conflicts with off-leash larger dogs who get too close to a coyote's mate. So we want to make sure during the mating season, especially, the larger dogs are on a leash. Also, we're getting into pup season here soon. That's April through the end of the summer. And this time of year, coyotes do use a den for their pups. So people often think that coyotes use a den all year long and they're looking for the den and trying to find it. But really the only time of year that they use the den is during the spring for about 6 weeks while their pups are young. And so if there are off-leash dogs around a coyote den, then we might run into conflicts there. So you definitely want to keep your dogs on a leash at that time of year as well. We also sometimes see increased attacks on unattended pets. So again, the coyotes have to hunt extra to feed all of their pups. So you want to make sure, especially during the spring and summer, that you are keeping an eye on your pets and keeping them on a leash. The other thing to point out is that we are always going to have coyotes in Geneva. Research has shown that even if you remove coyotes from an area, no matter how many coyotes that you remove, there are always going to be coyotes around. They're very good at repopulating. So, the best thing to do is to learn how to live with the coyotes that we already have here by hazing them and teaching them how to abide by our rules, rather than continually removing coyotes and getting new ones to come in.
You provide a lot of helpful tips for us today, but where else can people find information about coyotes whether it be on the Humane Society website or elsewhere?
Yeah, there's a number of places. So on the city's website, you have a great page about coyotes. Also, the Humane Society of the United States does have a page about coyotes. You can get to that at www.humanesociety.org/coyotes. We have a lot of information there. Also, people should know that this area is home to the largest study of urban coyotes in the world. The Cook County Coyote Project, which spans 6 counties, including Kane County, is located in this area. This study has been going on for more than 10 years, and they have radio collared up, I think, about 1,000 coyotes at this point. So we know the most about the coyotes in this area than we do anywhere else in the world. And we found over and over again that they really are avoiding people and keeping to themselves. So if you want to find out more information about that, you can go to urbancoyoteresearch.com.
That's all the time we have for Geneva Works today. I'd like to thank Lynsey White Dasher for her time and insight into coyotes in our area.
Thank you. It was great to be here today.
We also thank you for watching. We'll be tuning in again next month to see how Geneva is working for you.